Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we are going to talk about our favourite Warhammer 40k memories. When you've been sitting there having a game and something ridiculously good or ridiculously stupid has happened. Either is fine. I'll be honest, you will most likely start to see me melt to some degree as this video goes on. Well, I know I say all the time, I'm going to try and make this a shorter one, or this should be a shorter video, and it never is. This time it might actually be, because as is traditional in the UK, we've decided to skip the part where the country warms up gradually for the summer, and instead we've gone from needing the heating on to avoid freezing to death to having a heat wave in about 2 hours. So it's nice and sunny outside. It's really nice out there, which unfortunately means that it's like a goddamn oven in here because I've got a computer on all day and it heats up real quick. And of course we don't have air conditioning because our houses are designed to keep in heat, which increasingly seems like a terrible idea every year as it gets warmer and warmer. Anyway, enough about the weather. So, favourite 40k game memories. I have 3. One of them was absolutely fantastic and I loved it. It was awesome. One weirdly shouldn't be a favourite memory because it involves getting absolutely annihilated. And the third is one of my just all-time favourite things that happened with a group of friends, just because of how absolutely stupid and over the top it was, especially given the rules surrounding Warhammer 40k at that time. So we'll start off with the massive defeat, the absolutely god-awful, oh dear lord, I'm just getting annihilated moment. And this was when I got my 13th Company Space Wolves, back when it was in the Codex Eye of Terror. It's so long ago, and one of the things that you had for that particular codex was that the 13th Company Space Wolves could not take vehicles. You could have infantry, you could have bikes, no vehicles allowed. It was reasoned that they had spent so long in the Eye of Terror they wouldn't be able to maintain their vehicles, and as such you shouldn't field any, which to me made perfect sense, and I was absolutely happy with that. Something that I perhaps hadn't considered when playing that army for the first time was that I had become kind of reliant on transports to get my lads around, and I didn't have any transports for my 13th Company. Now, I cannot remember off the top of my head whether you actually just couldn't take rhinos or whether it was a thematic choice on my part. I cannot remember which one it was, but I took the no vehicles rule ultra seriously, and I was like, no vehicles. If they got bikes, that's it. As a result, my poor foot-slogging 13th Company, as they trudged slowly up the board towards my Tau enemy, did not have the best time ever. It was, in fact, pretty disastrous. I remember watching squad after squad after squad just get absolutely annihilated. It was a case of, this squad is now dead, that squad is now dead, that one is also now dead. It didn't end. Not quickly, anyway. I seem to remember that once my Wolf Lord on bike did get within range, I did get a little bit of damage in, I did manage to kill a few things, but overall it wasn't exactly a fair fight. It was a one-sided mess of my army getting torn apart one unit at a time until there was just nothing left. I mean, as a first outing for an army, it was absolutely disastrous in every single way. I really achieved absolutely nothing with that force in that fight. And yet, for some reason, it was still really enjoyable because it went from being like, oh, this is going to be close, let's see what happens, oh, can I get a couple of shots off? Instead, I was almost playing against the army myself. Like, when my opponent was rolling and he was missing shots, I was like, oh, that's unlucky. Oh, that was a quality round of shooting there. You've annihilated those. That's immense. It went from being, this sucks, to, you know what, at this point, you've just got to embrace it. You've just got to accept it. You've just got to sit there and be like, this is an absolute disaster for me. the only way I'm going to get something out of this is if I embrace the chaos, embrace the destruction, and just look at this and go, that's kind of funny. I'm losing so badly, it's gone from being upsetting all the way to being just kind of funny. I really enjoyed that game. I absolutely shouldn't have done. It was unbelievably bad. Like, I got absolutely annihilated. It went so terribly wrong, and yet it went so wrong that it just looped all the way back round from being a bit of a kind of frustrating game to just embracing the destruction. On the opposite end of that, I had a game with my Iron Warriors, and it was after I'd been playing for a couple of years at this point, and I really embraced my Iron Warriors. I absolutely loved that army in all of its goofy, terrible composition. And as I've said before, I've never played 40k for the express purpose of winning. Winning is a nice side effect of having fun, but I don't go into games being like, if I don't win, then this was a waste of time. I go into games going, if I enjoyed that, it was absolutely worth doing. And my Iron Warriors list always reflected that. It was not min-maxed in the slightest. I wanted it to be full of artillery, I wanted it to be full of like backline stuff. Like, as I've said many times, a Basilisk, 2 Defilers and a Land Raider is a hell of a lot of points to sink into just the back of your army, and yet that's what I did every time because I loved the theme of it. You know, artillery cannons booming off behind, a couple of squads just entrenching themselves behind rhinos, whilst there's a proper ridiculous vanguard of a Demon Prince and Terminators charging in. I loved it because it was not particularly effective, but just because it was fun. It was always fun. I never disliked playing that army, and I will never forget one specific game against someone's Imperial Guard whereby they did a good job of destroying pretty much everything. I mean, they really were. They had some incredibly lucky rolls, and I had some really unlucky rolls, and I watched my vehicles get blown up one at a time. I watched my 2 squads get taken down, and for that game, I can't remember exactly, we pretty much just decided that it was going to be, when you've got nothing on the board, you lose. It was a full-on bloodbath. It was supposed to be like that. But somehow, miraculously and unbelievably, my Demon Prince and Terminators at no point took any damage. Whilst everything around them was blowing up and getting shot to shit and getting annihilated, they somehow just did not take a single hit. It was like they had some sort of ridiculous kind of luck shield around them. Everything missed. Entire squads missed. And eventually they got into close combat and proceeded to chew their way from one end of a gun line to the other, stopping for nothing. And it went from what was almost a guaranteed loss for me, it became essentially Demon Prince and friends annihilate an entire world. I don't know what was happening with the rolls, I don't know what was happening luck-wise, I don't know what the statistics were for what happened, but they cut down absolutely everything in their way, and by the time they'd finished demolishing just everything in front of them, out of the original 5 Terminators, I believe I'd lost 2. The Demon Prince had lost no wounds and had a personal kill count like up in the probably easily close to 50 or 60, because it was a really infantry heavy Imperial Guard army. I say really, it's not really infantry heavy at all, is it? 50 or 60 guardsmen, but I mean that's not bad for for a Demon Prince to, you know, have that tally under his belt. It was a proper nail-biting game, because even though I wasn't in it just so I can go, yeah, I won, fuck you, it started off with like, ooh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be a repeat of that 13th Company situation. This is not gonna be good for me. And it just changed over the course of like 2 turns. It went from being, oh, I've definitely lost this, but if I can take out a couple of guys, that'd be good. It went from that and and the friend I was playing kind of being like, man, this sucks for you and I feel bad, to, oh god, I can't stop. They won't stop killing my guys. What is going on? It was fun because it started out being so bad and then just became so good for me. And at the end of it, there was no kind of like, finally my strategy paid off. Instead, we both just kind of took a moment and went, that was fucking stupid. I don't know how that worked. Awesome. That was great. It's those games that I think make 40k so much fun, to be honest. And for just absolute ridiculousness, I think one of my... And this was close to... I think this was close to when I actually dropped out of the hobby for a while. The local club that I used to go to way back was closing down because there weren't enough people. People had moved away. People had stopped playing. The place that we rented out to be able to actually play these games together, the rent was going up, and it was starting to become a bit kind of, not extortionate, but it was a bit unreasonable to pay as much as we were for the number of people who were still able to come regularly. And so we decided to have a big send-off, like a massive 40k game. And it was a free-for-all, which is always like a terrible idea. And there were a good 6 or 7 of us, and we just brought everything we could. Just as much as we possibly could. I remember fielding my Iron Warriors next to my Orcs, which was daft. I can't even remember if we even did point values. It was literally what you can fit on your way here, that's what you play with. And we will all just have a massive, massive battle. And it doesn't matter who wins, it doesn't matter who loses, it doesn't matter if you get knocked out straight away, you can help someone else with theirs. It really made no difference. It was one of the only games I think I've ever had where I don't think we even finished it, because it was so massive and we only had one day. We had like 8 hours, and we never finished that game. We never found out who won or lost, and no one even got tabled. It's not like there was like one person left at the end of it. There was still loads of units on the board. There was still combat everywhere. There was still shooting going on all over the place. And the entire thing was, if you look at it from the kind of the actual game point of view, you know, as Warhammer 40,000 as a tabletop game, it was kind of a waste of time because there was no conclusion, there was no finish, there was no winner, there was no loser. But that entire day was full of insane, stupid moments, like like one Khorne Berserker squad going through a significant portion of my Orc army, like 3 basilisks all firing across the entire table to attack someone, just for the sheer hell of it. There were so many things in that game where someone did something totally unexpected or totally unreasonable for no reason other than why the fuck not. And as a result, it became one of my kind of, I guess, everlasting memories of Warhammer 40k, whereby it was kind of the end of a bit of an era. You know, we've been meeting up for so long, we'd had this little group together for so long, and I think it was the best way to do a send-off, whereby no one cared who'd won, no one was fussed if they lost. It was just playing the game for the sake of playing the game, and that's all there was to it. And at no point, I think, have I ever sat down and gone, if we managed to finish it, who would win? Because it's kind of irrelevant. Like, it didn't make any difference to what we were doing. That was never the point of that game. The point was just to play until we literally couldn't play anymore because we were being kicked out, and then go our separate ways. Thinking about it, I'd really like to do a massive Apocalypse game again. I don't know if I'd ever have the time to actually finish it, but it was fun and ridiculous and over the top, and that's kind of what makes 40k so good, isn't it? Pretty much that, fun, ridiculous, and over the top. Anyway, I want to know what your favourite memories of playing Warhammer 40k are. Let me know in the comments. Go into as much detail as you like, or as little detail as you like. It's up to you. And I'm finally, there we go, starting to get a little bit of sweat on the go there. So I will leave you be for now. In the meantime, feel free to click any of the videos, subscribe, Patreon, all of that. That was almost coordinated, and as such I don't like it, so do any of that shit if you like. Click them if you like, don't click if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.